You might know him as the new drummer of the Rolling Stones, but there's so much more to tell about legendary drummer Steve Jordan. Born in the late 1950s in New York City, Steve Jordan grew up to become one of the busiest drummers of his generation. He became interested in music very early on, and by the time he graduated from New York's High School of Music and Art, he had gained some serious skills that enabled him to start playing with Stevie Wonder's band Wonderlove when he was still a teenager. Just a few years later, he landed the gig as touring drummer with Joe Cocker, and around the same time he started as the drummer for the house band of Saturday Night Live. This was not the only TV show he played, since he later became part of Paul Schaefer's band, playing for Late Night with David Letterman. Now let's get to the first and pretty early Steve Jordan gig we want to look at here, the Blues Brothers. While he did not appear in the movies, he was the original touring drummer when Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi started their band. If you check out their album Briefcase Full of Soul from 1978, you'll hear Jordan lay down some serious grooves, and since it's a live album, it's also a very honest portrayal of what he sounded like back then. Here's one of the most famous songs, their version of Sam and Dave's classic, Soul Man. Steve Jordan is well known for his time with Yamaha and creating the Club Custom line with them. But if you look at photographs, you will see him play Rogers, Ludwig, and Gretsch kits as well. He was never all about the brand, but more about the sound. We went with a simple 3-piece kit, 20-inch kick drum and 12 and 14-inch toms, and picked a brand he might have never played, simply out of curiosity, Sonor. Let's find out what our SQ1 kit sounds like as a replica of Jordan's sound. But before we get into that, here's the snare, Sonor's new 14x6.5 aluminum compressor model. Aluminum snares like the Supraphonic or the Acrolite were around back in the day, and since this drum has a pretty similar configuration, it will suit the sound pretty well. We kept the ambassador coated head the drum came with and tuned the drum to a medium range. For the right length and overtones, a mini muff, some tape, and this little muffling device were needed. The mics here are an M201 as bottom, an M201 as top mic, and an additional MC930 small diaphragm condenser mic taped to the top mic for some extra attack. The kick drum is the only drum we did not use the stock heads on. We installed a coated ambassador and removed the Reza head for a short muffled sound. The tuning of the batter head is just above wrinkle, and inside the kick we needed 2 blankets and an additional pillow for the right amount of muffling. The kick drum mic might be a little surprising, but we simply decided based on the sound we were aiming for rather than what they used back then. The easiest way to achieve a similar sound is with a boundary mic, in our case a TG-D71 inside the drum shell. Here's our Soul Man kick after mixing. The toms came with single-ply coated heads, and those work perfectly fine. Both toms are tuned medium-low, and the Rezo and batter heads are tuned in a similar range. To get the right dirtiness, it's important that the tuning is not 100% perfect. For muffling, we brought in 2 mini muffs with a floor tom and 1 mini muff for the rack tom. With 2 M88s in place, here's the tom sound. When choosing the cymbals for this one, Pascal simply went through our stock and went back and forth between different models until he was satisfied with the setup. The ones he picked in the end are 15-inch K-Sweet hats, since Jordan liked bigger hats. Steve himself often uses 16-inch hi-hats or even larger ones. The crashes are 16 and 18-inch A medium thin crashes, and the ride is a 20-inch A thin crash. With two M90 Pro X's as overheads, one MC950 for the hi-hat, and an M201 as room mic, we're now ready for Pascal's version of Soul Man.
Truckload, and when you get it, you got something. So don't worry, 'cause I'm coming. I'm a soul man. I'm a soul man. I'm a soul man. I'm a soul man.
Like the sound? You can use this exact drum sound for your own projects by simply downloading our sample and loops pack at shop.artofdrumming.com. Jordan gained a lot of recognition during this time, and some musicians like Charlie Watts really liked what he did. Watts once told fellow Rolling Stones musician Keith Richards that if he was looking to work with some other musicians outside the Stones, Steve Jordan was his man. And this happened when Steve Jordan started to work with Rolling Stones guitarist Keith Richards on several projects during the 1980s, which ultimately led to Jordan becoming a constant member of Keith Richards and the Expensive Winos, not only playing drums but also co-writing and co-producing a lot of their songs. They played multiple tours and recorded 3 albums. Some other artists Steve played with or produced are Bob Dylan, Don Henley, Rod Stewart, Billy Joel, and Alicia Keys, among many, many more. During the 2000s, Jordan became Eric Clapton's live drummer and intensified his work with the second artist we want to look at here, John Mayer. If you haven't listened to the John Mayer trio album Try with Pino Palladino on bass and Steve Jordan on drums, do so. For John Mayer's Grammy Award-winning album Continuum, Jordan not only played the drums, but is also credited as the producer alongside Mayer. Since we already looked at the low snare sound from Vultures, a song also co-written by Jordan, here's the album opener, Waiting on the World to Change. This pretty high and super recognizable snare sound is one of Jordan's trademark sounds. But if you listen to all the songs on this album, you will notice that he uses quite a variety of sounds on this album alone. Also during live shows, Jordan likes to switch snares from song to song to always suit the music and his personal taste. Now to recreate this one, we need to change the snare drum. Since Jordan might have used a 12-inch one when recording, but we didn't have a 12-inch snare in our stock, we went with the smallest one we have, a 13x5 Sonor Prolite. Once again, we kept the single-ply coated stock head, tuned it pretty high, and used some tape for muffling. Pascal also played slightly off-center to get a little more tone. With the same miking as before, here's the snare sound. The kick drum also needed a different treatment, and the first thing Pascal did was to reinstall the reso head. The mic also changed, and the one we use now is a TGI-51. For a softer attack, he also switched the beater and used a Vic Kick fleece model. For the toms, we only changed the muffling. For the right sound character, some tape works great on the 12-inch tom, and a single mini muff is the way to go for the floor tom. The cymbal sound for this song is completely different and a lot darker. The cymbals Pascal ended up picking are a 16-inch hi-hat made from a K cluster crash as bottom and a Constantinople crash as top cymbal, a 20-inch Constantinople medium thin low, a 22-inch Constantinople medium, and a 22-inch Constantinople medium thin low. Enjoy Pascal's version of this famous song. course today Steve Jordan is the touring and the studio drummer for the Rolling Stones after Charlie Watts passed away. And now, knowing his close connection to Keith Richards, this also does seem the logical choice for the band. If you want to support our channel and help us sustain our work, check out the donation link in the video description. We're super thankful for every small amount that helps us keep doing what we do. Now, what is your favorite track Steve Jordan played on, and what other stories do you know about him? Let us know in the comments, and make sure to hit subscribe and ring the bell to keep up to date with our newest videos.